What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's spoiler-filled Edie Explains for the new Saw movie, Spiral, the Book of Saw. It actually brings back Darren Lynn Bousman as director. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming in next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, as well as comment below on any video that you watch, including this one. And so this movie, which is the 9th film in the Saw franchise, is more of a offshoot of the whole entire Saw films itself. It still has like John Kramer and the whole idea of Jigsaw Killer, but this time we have Chris Rock, who actually developed this idea of this movie, who plays a detective who in essence has to basically track down this killer that is a Jigsaw imitator, who is in essence taking down what is considered dirty cops in his precinct. And as this being kind of a Saw film, there are traps and deadly vices and stuff like that. And as he moves along through the story, as he starts discovering the mystery of the story itself, he actually becomes partners with this rookie cop named Shank, who's played by Minghella. And overall, this story starts to open up into what is the bigger mystery: who is this Jigsaw killer imitator, and why is he targeting cops? And so with that said, to get the ball rolling on this review, this is a very fascinating film to me personally. Not on the aspect of it being a movie about Saw and the Jigsaw killer and stuff like that. It's the fact that Chris Rock really wanted to do this movie. He pitched it to Lionsgate, they went for it, brought in a couple writers, he helped develop the story, but then they bring in Samuel L. Jackson, they bring in Max Minghella, they bring in not as many big A-list actors, but to bring in Chris Rock and of course Samuel L. Jackson to this movie makes you kind of stand to attention a little bit, because you get a little excited. What are they going to do with this project? Are they going to make it unique? Is it going to stick to the formula, or is it going to be something kind of cool and creative? Is it going to be horrifying? And to do like a non-spoiler review till I get into like the ending explains, which I want to talk about this film, I'll be personally honest, this movie has a lot of potential, but it's extremely lazy in its writing. It's extremely lazy in its directing. If you watch a review from like somebody like Chris Stuckman, it's a movie that has so many problems with, logistics and, the way characters are set up. And, Chris Rock in this movie is just kind of over the top and silly, and his eventual conclusion to his story is just kind of banal and boring. And Samuel L. Jackson's like barely in this movie. And then when it comes to the traps, I think after like Saw 3 or something like that, the traps really just don't serve a purpose outside of just extreme gore, thrilling and just over the top zaniness. And even at one point Chester Bennington from Linkin Park was involved in a trap. And I understand they people like these movies for their gore factor and the traps and stuff like that, but when you saw a movie like Saw 1 and you saw what the traps were invented for, they're much more creative, they're much more thought-provoking, and they are gory and violent, yes, but they are not there just to be built as way to decapitate people. So with that said, the movie it completely falls off the radar, just these aspects. And then, like I said, you get to the conclusion, you get to who the Jigsaw imitator killer is, and that's where we get into the spoiler territory. So word of warning, if you have not seen this movie, you want to see it, skip from here on out. Just know that I didn't like this movie at all. I think it's extremely lazy. Jigsaw is a much better film than this film, and I hated Jigsaw, so take that for what it's worth. But if I were to grade this movie, I would probably give it like a C-. It has some interesting concepts. I understand what it's going for, but it's just not very good. So with that said, let's move on to spoiler territory. The ending explains, all that good stuff. Okay, so this movie is very, very frustrating, because not only did I predict that Max Minghella was the Jigsaw imitator from the beginning, but the clues that he leaves are so obvious that they're kind of mind-numbingly bad. The idea that he points to, he says it and you see flashbacks and stuff like that. But I'm sitting here watching this, I'm like, this is very inspired by Usual Suspects. This is very much a story where a character is leading on the individuals. It seems like the Max Minghella character just seems to be in the right spot at the right time. The whole idea, and he's on the computer, he claims he has a baby. When they find his supposed body, I'm like, there's no way that is his character. And the tattoo and stuff like that, it was just completely obvious that it was him from the beginning. The fact that he was so enamored by the Chris Rock's father character, he even points and says, it's all because of him. And you just see it. And then when in the revelation that comes that he was the son of the father that was killed by by the corrupt cop, the one that Chris Rock ends up, basically taking out of the force and becomes a rat, that type of scenario. It was so in your face. It was so, the whole cell phone thing is like, when Chris Rock goes, you a child, and so on and so forth, and that's a dead giveaway. And he borrows the phone, and then there's a point where the detective is walking down the head of the police department in New York is walking down the cellar, and you see his name, the Max Minghella's character's name on it, and it really feels like we're trying to be clever, but we're really not. There's nothing clever about who his character is. When you see all the violence happen, you know that these characters are not going to make it through. The fact that it's a police corrupt story, the fact that, what's also really funny is this movie was supposed to release last year, and it's very much about how corrupt the police are, the fact that Chris Rock is involved, the fact that the end of this movie is about a character who is basically getting back at his father's killer, and the killers and the corrupt cops and stuff like that. It's very much a cops are bad, take them down, do anything possible. And then, of course, the Max Minghella character offers Chris Rock's character an ultimatum. He's like, come work with me, so on and so forth. And he's like, I admire you. And he's like, the only way to save your father, who, the Samuel L. Jackson character who's bleeding out to death, is to shoot that little arrow or the little bullseye. That's what he does. And then because he's roped up the door, the Max Minghella character, he's like, come with me, and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, the cops, because he's called the cops have basically sawed through the door, and it raises Samuel L. Jackson's character up, and it really kind of clever. I thought it was a clever trap. It is really interesting. And then he pulls a gun, so it's very much in your face that here's a black man being shot by the police, and we're going to tell that story. And you very much feel that Chris Rock wanted to tell a Saul story about the police, and the police being the ones that are basically the corrupt nature of who they are, and it's very in your face. And then when they're in the church, when the Max Minghella character and the Chris Rock character go in the church, you see a very interesting nature in the face of Max Minghella's character, the William Scheck character, talking about the detective, or the disgraced detective and stuff like that. And it's just that kind of stuff is just very, very lazily written into this movie. Yeah, it tries to throw you off, saying that William Scheck's character is killed and so on and so forth, but when a movie like that is presented the way it is, and then you got something like Jigsaw, which is really bad in its own right, but actually has Cary Elwes as the kind of perpetrator, the Jigsaw imitator. But they kind of like force it, and they kind of rubber band it and tape it together. So even though that the series has gotten convoluted like it has, at least there's some kind of structure there. There's no structure here. At the very end, Samuel L. Jackson's character is killed. Chris Rock's character is screaming, and Max Minghella's character is going down the elevator and stuff like that. And I don't know where they're gonna go from here if they do a sequel. I see Chris Rock disgrace going after the Max Minghella character, and on top of that, you're always constantly seeing shots of these different detectives, and they're always glaring, and they always look like they're menacing. Chris Rock always looks like he's mad and menacing and stuff like that, and they're trying to throw you off. They're trying to make you think one thing, and then they're really perpetrating another way. But you can also hear it in the voice of the Jigsaw imitator, who's always wearing the pig mask. I did like the puppet. I thought that was a really cool thing. They're not using Billy the puppet, but they're using something else. But it's you can kind of hear it in his voice when he talks on the phone. I'm like, this guy's very, very young who's talking. You can tell he has a very kind of a way about his mannerisms and stuff like that, and you can kind of get the gist when you're listening to Max Minghella talk. It's very similar. It's just a very different pitch in his talking ability. And I just think overall, when you try to create something interesting and unique like that, when you're trying to create a killer, somebody who's trying to get back at the police, you got to be a lot more clever than, I trained for years and I'm going to get back at the cops and so on and so forth. And I think Darren Lynn Bousman is a very competent director, but it's just, there's something truly not right about a movie that is so in your face with who the killer is so far in the beginning that it just becomes kind of stupid. It really does. It makes the movie just not great, and it leaves a lot of open-ended questions about what exactly and how exactly did Max Minghella's character, the William Scheck character, able to create these traps? Like, where there's no real concept and idea to how he's able to do this. Did he become a genius? Is he a super idealistic individual that just knew the works of John Kramer? It's never fully explained. And that's on top of the problems with it, just the fact that he's very much like Verbal Kint from Usual Suspects. So that is my spoiler review. My ending explains. Like I said, it was William Scheck, the Max Minghella character, all along. I predicted it from the very beginning. I'm not saying I'm super smart, but when you can even get me to predict it from the very beginning, you have not a great movie. So overall, like I said, C- is not a great movie. And yeah, there you go. That is my take on Spiral, the Book of Saul. Like I said, could have been much better. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen this movie. What was your overall feeling? Did you expect the Max Minghella William Scheck character to be the Jigsaw imitator? Did you predict it like I did? But also, let me know in the comments below what you think of the Saul franchise. Anyways, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. And if you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.